In Shaoxing during the Jiajing period of the Ming Dynasty, the warm spring sun filtered through carved wooden windows, casting mottled light and shadows in the Bao Mansion's hall. The wealthy Bao Ruiqing sat on a rosewood chair, tapping his knuckles on a Wangwali table, where a finely detailed peony painting lay. He had paid a high price for it in Jinling. The petals were layered like clouds and embroidery, with dewdrops seemingly ready to fall. You are all experts in calligraphy and painting. Today, let's appreciate this rare treasure, Bao Ruiqing said, stroking his beard as he glanced around the hall. The renowned artists from the two counties formed a semicircle. Some leaned in to examine the signature, others whispered behind sleeves. But no one dared compose a poem. None wanted to risk the shame of covering the Buddha's head with feces by tarnishing such a masterpiece. Suddenly, the sound of bells and pendants rang out as Su Wanchang, dressed in a green shirt, entered. Though still young, his eyes and brows carried a calmness beyond his years. Bao Ruiqing frowned quietly at the sight. This poor youth might have some talent, but how could he hold his own on such an occasion? Just as he was about to refuse him, Su Wanchang lifted a wolf hair brush. Wait! Bao Ruiqing stood up abruptly, his sleeve knocking over a celadone brush washer. Ink spilled like a black snake, landing directly in the peony bushes on the painting. Gasps filled the room as Su Wanchang's hand froze in midair. The ink spread across the silk like a drop of snow on a plum branch in winter. Bao Ruiqing's face turned pale. This painting was worth half a street of houses. As the room held its breath, Su Wanchang's eyes suddenly lit up. With a light flick of his wrist, he dipped the brush into the ink stain and began to draw and dot around it. A few dry strokes brought forth bold plum branches from the paper. With layers of thick ink, 5-petal winter plums bloomed in the cold. The jarring ink blot had transformed into proud snow-covered red plums, sharply contrasting with the soft peonies. Bring cinnabar, Su Wanchang said, without turning his head. When the servant handed over the rouge box, he dipped the brush and touched the plum pistils lightly. In that instant, the room seemed to brighten. The red plums, frosted and luminous, gleamed brilliantly among the peonies. Look at this layout, Su Wanchang said, setting down his brush and stepping back. The peony rules spring, the plum blossom is winter's soul. The seasons cycle endlessly. I've used the ink blot as branches and cinnabar for stamens to express the natural truth through an unexpected stroke. He then picked up the brush and wrote 4 lines in the corner of the painting. Heavenly beauty is no common sight. The cold plum alone blooms in snowy skies. Ink traces reflect heaven's will, skillfully borrowing spring to portray winter's pride. The moment the poem was finished, the room fell silent. Bao Ruiqing leaned closer and saw that the plum branches were as strong as iron, the peony petals as soft as clouds, and the contrast of dark and light ink revealed the mystery of yin and yang. The 4 lines of poetry were firm and powerful. The first 2 praised the beauty of the flowers, while the last 2 subtly conveyed the unity of man and nature, turning a flaw into a highlight. Wonderful! The white-haired old man laughed and clapped. This ink mark was a flaw, but with Su Shang's insight, it brought out the painting's spirit. Look at that plum branch piercing diagonally. It breaks the peony's rich aura and gives the whole work a balance of strength and softness. Bao Ruiqing nodded repeatedly, then felt a chill on his sleeve. Looking down, he saw the spilled ink had soaked through the fabric. Instead of being annoyed, he laughed. Mr. Su's skill of transplanting flowers and trees is like the brush of an immortal. Now I understand, what sets sages apart is not the price of ink and paper, but the landscape within their minds. When Su Wanchang retouched the painting, he had 3 hidden intentions. First, turning the ink stain into plum branches, using the flaw as structure. Second, dotting the stamens with cinnabar, using brightness to break gloom. And third, adding a poem to transform the visual into philosophy. This echoed life's trials. What seems like disaster can become a turning point if one escapes rigid thinking and adapts. His metaphor was clear. Winter plums and peonies are not in conflict. Gain and loss lie in the eye of the beholder.